Today, perhaps more than ever, the deepest currents of human attraction and psychological entanglement remain shrouded in a pervasive mystery. We speak of chemistry, of fate, of inexplicable magnetism, yet rarely do we dare to gaze into the true abyss of the unconscious forces that bind and repel. Imagine, if you will, the man who stands before a woman, seemingly composed, perhaps even aloof. What hidden tectonic shifts occur beneath the surface of his carefully constructed ego when he encounters something profoundly, almost terrifyingly, authentic within her? It is not merely her beauty that captivates him, nor her intelligence, nor even her charm. These are but the outermost garments, the initial illusions. What truly unravels him, what sends an ancient tremor through his very being, is the awakening of her feminine spirit, a force so primal, so untamed, that it shatters the fragile edifice of his projections and confronts him with the naked truth of his own soul. This is the journey of the 7 veils, a descent into the profound psychological impact a woman's genuine self-realization has on the masculine psyche. It is not a tale of manipulation, but of revelation, not of conquest, but of surrender. When a woman begins to shed the societal conditioning, the relational wounds, the desperate need for external validation that have historically defined her, she initiates a transformation that is nothing short of alchemical. This shedding, this peeling back of the veils, is an arduous, often solitary path of individuation, a Jungian odyssey into the depths of her own unconscious. For the man who witnesses this metamorphosis, or more precisely, who feels its reverberations within his own inner landscape, the experience can be both terrifying and irresistibly alluring. He confronts not just her emerging authenticity, but the stark reflection of his own shadow, those unintegrated, disowned aspects of himself that clamor for recognition, for healing. Consider the man who has built his world around control, around the predictable algorithms of interaction. His ego thrives on certainty, on the comfort of established roles. But when a woman begins to embody her spiritual femininity, she disrupts this equilibrium with the sheer force of her being. She no longer seeks his approval, no longer molds herself to fit his expectations. This isn't a performative detachment. It is an organic outgrowth of her self-discovery. Her newfound inner sovereignty radiates an energy that is both inviting and profoundly challenging. It stirs within him the forgotten yearning for connection that transcends the transactional, a longing for a depth that his ego, in its frantic efforts to maintain power, has long suppressed. The first veil she sheds is often the veil of validation. For so long, her worth might have been tethered to external affirmation, to the male gaze, to the relational mirror. But as she delves into her own unconscious, as she confronts the inherited traumas and societal narratives that have dictated her perceived value, she begins to reclaim her inherent self-worth. This is a quiet, internal revolution. She stops seeking, she starts being. For him, this shift is palpable. Where once he might have felt a subtle power in being the source of her happiness, he now encounters a woman who is her own source. This can trigger a deep insecurity within him, a realization of his own dependence on her former neediness. His ego, accustomed to being the sun around which her world revolved, suddenly finds itself in the periphery. This is the first tremor, the initial destabilization of his inner world. He might experience confusion, a sense of loss, even a subtle panic as the familiar dynamics crumble. The woman, by simply existing in her newfound self-sufficiency, forces him to confront his own internal void, the emptiness he might have unknowingly filled with her projected desires, as she moves through her own shadow work, facing the parts of herself she deemed unlovable, undesirable, or too powerful, she becomes increasingly whole. This process, often painful and isolating, paradoxically makes her more compelling. She is no longer fragmented, no longer hiding. Her vulnerability becomes a source of immense strength, an authentic presence that cannot be faked or manufactured. This raw authenticity is the very quality that disarms the masculine ego, bypassing its defenses and speaking directly to the deeper archetypal layers of his own being. He might find himself drawn to her not for what she can give him, but for who she profoundly is. A realization that can be both exhilarating and deeply unsettling. The second veil she lifts is the veil of performance. For generations, women have been subtly, sometimes overtly, conditioned to perform femininity, to curate an image that is palatable, agreeable, non-threatening to the dominant masculine narrative. This performance often involves suppressing genuine emotion, denying powerful desires, and minimizing one's true intellectual or creative force. But as she integrates her shadow aspects, her anger, her ambition, her untamed wildness, she ceases to perform. She simply is. This raw authenticity is a stark contrast to the carefully constructed personas he might be accustomed to encountering. Her honesty, born of deep self-acceptance, compels him to drop his own masks, to shed the armor he wears in the transactional world. He may find himself speaking truths he never intended to reveal, sharing vulnerabilities he keeps hidden from even his closest confidants. This is not a conscious decision on his part. It is an unconscious response to the profound safety and freedom her authenticity projects. She doesn't demand his truth. Her truth simply invites his own to surface as she navigates the labyrinth of her own psyche, confronting inherited patterns and societal expectations. She learns to trust her own intuition, her own inner compass. This leads to the shedding of the third veil, the veil of external guidance. No longer does she look outside herself for answers, for validation, for direction. Her wisdom stems from within, a deep wellspring of self-knowledge honed through introspection, and often profound solitary periods. This inner authority is deeply unsettling to the man whose power structure relies on being the guide, the protector, the one with all the answers. He might feel a subtle shift in dynamic, a subtle loss of his perceived indispensability, but simultaneously, this independent spirit ignites a different kind of respect within him. He encounters a woman who is her own authority, a force unto herself. This stirs an ancient awe, a recognition of the great mother archetype within her, a force that precedes and encompasses his own structured reality. This can provoke a deep yearning within him for connection to something larger, something more primal than the confines of his own egoic world. Her journey into spiritual femininity is inherently tied to her emotional mastery, not through suppression, but through deep understanding and integration. This is where she lifts the fourth veil, the veil of emotional reactivity. Rather than being swept away by the tides of emotion, she learns to observe them, to understand their origins, and to respond from a place of conscious choice rather than unconscious reaction. This emotional equanimity, rooted in practices akin to Stoic philosophy, not in the suppression of feeling, but in the intelligent management of one's inner state, as taught by Seneca and Marcus Aurelius, makes her an anchor in a chaotic world. For the man who has often navigated his own emotional landscape with brute force or avoidance, her serene presence can be profoundly attractive. He might find himself drawn to her as a haven, a place where his own anxieties and turbulent emotions can find a moment of peace. Yet this attraction is laced with a subtle apprehension. Her emotional integrity exposes his own unresolved emotional wounds, forcing him to confront the turbulent currents within himself that he has long ignored or projected onto others. This leads inevitably to the unmasking of the fifth veil, the veil of relational dependence. As she cultivates her inner world, her sense of completeness becomes unshakable. She is whole within herself, not half a person searching for another. Half. This does not mean she shuns connection. Rather, she approaches relationships from a place of abundance, not scarcity. She does not need a man to complete her. She chooses to engage from a place of sovereign freedom. For the man, this shifts the entire relational paradigm. The dynamic of pursuit, of chasing, of the hunter and the hunted, takes on a new, more profound dimension. When a woman genuinely desires companionship from a place of wholeness rather than need, her attraction becomes incredibly potent. It bypasses his ego's desire for control and speaks directly to his anima, the feminine principle within his own unconscious, stirring a profound longing for true partnership, for a union that elevates rather than diminishes. He recognizes, perhaps unconsciously, that he is in the presence of a woman who offers not a transactional exchange, but a genuine communion of souls. The sixth veil she courageously peels back is the veil of protection. This is perhaps the most dangerous, for it reveals her raw, untamed essence. Unburdened by the need to soften her power, to dim her light for the comfort of others, she ceases to anticipate male fragility, to preemptively adjust her voice, her opinions, her very presence, to avoid confrontation or discomfort. This emergence is not aggressive, it is simply unapologetic. She stands in her truth, even when that truth is inconvenient, even when it challenges established norms or individual egos. For the man, this can be profoundly confronting. He might feel exposed, his own unexamined assumptions about female submissiveness or compliance suddenly laid bare. This forces him to confront his own internalized misogyny, his unconscious expectations of what a woman should be. Yet, paradoxically, this unyielding authenticity is deeply attractive to his deeper, more evolved self. It speaks to the part of him that yearns for genuine connection, for a partner who is a true equal, not a mirror reflecting his own desires. He experiences a profound respect for her strength, a respect that transcends fleeting admiration and touches upon the awe. Inspired by a force of nature, this can trigger a process of ego dissolution within him, a necessary breaking down of old structures that no longer serve his highest self, leading him towards a more integrated and mature masculinity. This confrontation with her unbridled authenticity can manifest as moments of profound silence between them. These are not empty silences, but rich, pregnant pauses where unspoken truths hang in the air, challenging him to meet her not with words, but with presence. What a man thinks when a woman goes silent after shedding this veil is often a cascade of self-reflection. He might initially project his own anxieties onto her silence, interpreting it as anger or withdrawal. But if he is willing to sit with the discomfort, to engage in his own shadow work, he will begin to hear the deeper message, a call to introspection, a demand for his own emotional honesty. Her silence becomes a powerful mirror, reflecting his own unaddressed fears, his own patterns of avoidance. This dynamic, while unsettling, is crucial for his growth, pushing him towards a more conscious engagement with his inner world, much like the Stoic practice of self-examination advocated by Epictetus. He realizes that her silence is not a punishment, but an invitation to depth. Finally, she lifts the seventh veil, the veil of illusion. This is the ultimate shedding, where she fully embraces her spiritual femininity and the inherent wisdom of her own unique path. She recognizes the impermanence of all external forms, including relationships, and derives her security from an unshakable inner core. She understands that true attraction is not about manipulation or performance, but about radiating one's authentic essence. This leads to a profound detachment from outcome, not in the sense of indifference, but in the sense of trust in the natural unfolding of life. She moves through the world with a quiet confidence, an inner knowing that transcends the need for external validation or control. For the man, this can be the most potent and transformative experience. He encounters a woman who is truly free, free from fear, free from attachment, free from the need to be anything other than who she already is. This freedom is profoundly contagious. It stirs within him a deep longing for his own liberation, a desire to shed his own illusions and embrace his authentic self. This encounter forces him to confront his own ego projections, those unconscious fantasies and expectations he has placed upon women throughout his life. He can no longer project his unfulfilled desires, his unresolved wounds, or his idealized notions onto her. For she stands before him as a complete entity, an individual soul. He is forced to see her for who she truly is, and in doing so, he begins to see himself more clearly. This is where true attraction dynamics transcend the superficial and delve into the realm of the soul. He is drawn not to a need, but to a profound presence, not to an image, but to a spirit. The woman who has peeled back her 7 veils embodies the very essence of sovereignty, a self-possessed power that is both ancient and utterly modern. Her awakening becomes a catalyst for his own, prompting him towards his own journey of individuation, forcing him to confront the unintegrated aspects of his anima, the feminine principle within his own unconscious, and to seek harmony within himself. This often leads to an unexpected shift in his perspective on commitment, on partnership, and on the very nature of love itself. The psychological effect of her awakened spirit on a man is multifaceted, often leading to a profound internal conflict. On one hand, his deepest archetypal longing for the sacred feminine, for the anima's embrace, pulls him irresistibly towards her. This is a desire that transcends the physical, a yearning for spiritual communion that his rational mind may struggle to comprehend. On the other hand, his ego, accustomed to control and predictability, feels threatened by her untamed independence. He may experience moments of intense frustration, a sense of powerlessness, as his usual strategies for attraction and engagement prove ineffective. This internal friction, this clash between the conscious ego and the unconscious soul, is a crucible for his own growth. It forces him to confront his patterns of seeking external validation, his own attachments to outcomes, and his deeply ingrained fears of abandonment or inadequacy. Consider the man who has always relied on his achievements, his status, or his charm to attract. When he encounters a woman who is genuinely unimpressed by these external markers, whose gaze penetrates to the core of his being, he is forced to look inward. Her lack of neediness acts as a mirror, reflecting his own unfulfilled desires, his own neglected inner life. This can be deeply uncomfortable, even painful. He might feel a surge of regret for past relationships where he sought to dominate or control, recognizing now the superficiality of those connections compared to the depth she embodies. This regret is not merely emotional. It is a psychological signal that his soul yearns for a higher form of relating, a bond rooted in mutual respect and authentic presence, Her spiritual femininity, in its complete form, radiates a powerful form of detachment. This is not aloofness, but a profound inner peace derived from self-possession. She is not waiting for him to complete her story. She is living her own. This detachment, paradoxical as it may seem, fuels his obsession. Not the unhealthy, possessive kind, but a consuming fascination born of intrigue and a deep desire to understand the source of her inner freedom. He might find himself thinking about her when she's absent, replaying interactions, trying to decipher the unsaid. This intense mental engagement is his unconscious mind wrestling with the profound challenge she presents to his established worldview. His ordinary methods of chase and capture fail, leaving him in a state of tantalizing uncertainty. He becomes the one pursuing not her attention, but her essence, her secret to inner tranquility. This journey for him often involves a confrontation with his shadow aspects, the parts of himself he has suppressed or denied. Her radiant authenticity exposes his own areas of inauthenticity. If he harbors unresolved anger, insecurity, or a tendency towards manipulation, her pure presence will bring these to the surface. This is a painful but necessary process. Like the Stoic philosophers who advocated for rigorous self-examination, he is compelled to face his own internal landscape without illusion. He learns, perhaps for the first time, that true attraction comes not from external display or forceful pursuit, but from inner integrity. Her unwavering self-worth becomes a beacon, illuminating the path for his own self-discovery. The dynamic shifts from one of chase to one of internal alignment. He realizes that to truly connect with a woman of such sovereign spirit, he must first become a more integrated man himself. This is the ultimate lesson she imparts, not through words or demands, but through the sheer magnetic force of her being. His obsession transforms into inspiration, his regret into a catalyst for change. He begins his own journey of individuation, not for her, but because her presence has revealed the profound possibilities within himself. The man's journey in the presence of her awakened feminine spirit is one of profound internal restructuring. He begins to see the limitations of a life lived solely from the ego-driven perspective, a life chasing external achievements and superficial validations. Her radiant self-possession forces him to confront his own internal landscape, to acknowledge the whispers of his unconscious that have long been silenced by the demands of the outer world. He might find himself grappling with intense feelings of admiration, tinged with a subtle sense of humility, recognizing that her power does not diminish his own, but rather challenges him to rise to a higher level of being. This shift in perspective is crucial for his own individuation process, pushing him to integrate his own anima, the often neglected feminine principle within his psyche, which holds the keys to his emotional depth and spiritual insight. This is where the principles of Stoicism intertwine with Jungian psychology. Just as Marcus Aurelius urged self-mastery and an examination of one's inner citadel, so too is the man compelled to look within. Her emotional mastery, born not of suppression but of deep understanding, serves as a silent teaching. He observes her capacity to navigate life's challenges with grace and resilience, inspiring him to cultivate his own inner fortitude. He may find himself re-evaluating his reactions to external events, shifting from impulsive responses to considered, conscious choices. This is not about becoming emotionless, but about becoming the architect of his own inner state, a true sovereign of his own mind, much like Seneca's ideal of the wise man. Her presence subtly guides him away from the endless pursuit of external gratification, and towards the enduring peace of internal alignment. His attraction to her transforms from mere physical or intellectual appeal into a profound yearning for existential connection. He is drawn to her completeness, her unwavering sense of self, which contrasts sharply with any lingering sense of fragmentation within himself. This deep attraction is not rooted in need, but in a recognition of her spiritual depth, a quality that speaks to the highest aspirations of his own soul. He may experience moments of intense clarity, where the illusions he once held about relationships and self-worth simply dissolve in the light of her authenticity. This can be disorienting, even painful, as cherished beliefs crumble, but it is ultimately liberating. This profound psychological impact often manifests in subtle yet powerful ways. He might begin to prioritize introspection, to engage in activities that foster his own spiritual growth, or to seek out deeper, more meaningful connections in all areas of his life. His past patterns of seeking external validation, of engaging in power dynamics, or of chasing fleeting pleasures may begin to lose their appeal. He is no longer satisfied with superficiality, having glimpsed the profound richness of a life lived from a place of integrity and spiritual depth, a richness that her awakening has unveiled. The subtle shifts in his behavior are not driven by a conscious effort to win her approval, but by an unconscious imperative to align with the higher truths her presence has revealed within him. The ultimate effect of her shedding the 7 veils is not about her getting the man, but about her awakening him to himself. She is not a prize to be won, but a catalyst for his own individuation. Her journey of self-discovery, of reclaiming her authentic feminine spirit, becomes a mirror reflecting his own unfulfilled potential, his own call to greatness. He learns that true love, true partnership, can only exist between 2 individuated souls, 2 beings who are complete within themselves and choose to walk together from a place of abundance, not lack. This realization is the cornerstone of a mature and fulfilling relationship, transcending the egoic games and projections that often define human connection. Her liberation becomes his inspiration, her peace his aspiration, the ultimate liberation for both the man and the woman, catalyzed by her profound internal awakening, culminates in a radical shift in their understanding of attraction and connection. For him, the obsessive pursuit transforms into a deep admiration for her internal landscape, an almost reverential respect for the woman who dared to confront her own shadows and emerge authentically. He learns that true magnetic force does not come from external adornment or strategic plays, but from the radiant energy of an individuated soul. This realization shatters the old paradigms of attraction, moving beyond superficiality to a yearning for profound spiritual resonance. He may find himself engaging in his own shadow work with newfound vigor, driven by an unconscious desire to meet her at that elevated level of consciousness, to become a more integrated version of himself. Her journey through the 7 veils leaves her with an unshakable sense of inner peace. This isn't the absence of challenges, but the profound wisdom to navigate them from a place of serenity, detached from external outcomes. She no longer seeks validation from him, from society, or from any external source. Her worth is self-contained, a luminous inner sun. This radical self-sufficiency is paradoxically what makes her so profoundly attractive. She radiates a stillness that draws him in, a calm authority that invites his own ego to finally rest. He recognizes that her peace is not dependent on him, and in that realization, he finds a freedom to pursue his own peace, unburdened by the pressure to fix or complete. Her, The profound impact of her awakening also touches upon the raw nerve of regret. He may look back on past relationships, past interactions, and see them through a new lens, one of superficiality, of unfulfilled potential, of missed opportunities for genuine connection. This regret is not meant to be a punishment, but a powerful catalyst for growth. It serves as a stark reminder of the limitations of an ego-driven existence and propels him towards a more conscious, more meaningful way of relating. He learns that the deepest attraction stems from authenticity, and that the greatest regret comes from failing to live in alignment with one's truest self. In this transformed dynamic, the concept of feminine power takes on its true, unadulterated meaning. It is not about dominance or control, but about the innate strength of intuition, emotional intelligence, and radical self-acceptance. It is the power of creation, of nurturing, of holding space, and of simply being. When a man truly witnesses and honors this power within a woman, his own masculinity finds its deepest complement. He is called to embody his own strength, not in opposition to hers, but in harmonious synergy. Their attraction becomes a dance of two whole, sovereign beings, choosing to walk together, each illuminating the other's path. This entire process culminates in a profound sense of emotional freedom for both individuals. For the woman, it is freedom from the constraints of expectation, from the tyranny of the shoulds and musts. She lives authentically, speaks her truth, and walks her path with unwavering self-trust. For the man, it is freedom from the illusions of control, from the relentless pursuit of external validation, and from the burden of unintegrated shadows. He discovers that his own inner peace is not contingent on her actions, but on his own journey of self-discovery and integration. The journey through the 7 veils is not a destination, but a continuous unfolding, a testament to the transformative power of genuine self-realization. It reshapes not only personal relationships, but the very essence of how one perceives connection, attraction, and the sacred dance between the masculine and feminine. It is the ultimate testament to the profound truth that when a woman dares to fully awaken her spirit, the entire world around her shifts, and those who are truly ready for depth are inevitably drawn into her luminous orbit. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.